I committed an unauthorized act of journalism, and Facebook completely deleted me, my company, the news we had that was followed by 3.4 million viewers. It's a crazy story. We're a small news organization, but we had a big Facebook presence. When I woke up on Monday morning, we were actually followed by 3.4 million people, the various Facebook pages we ran. That's over 1% of America. When I went to bed that night, we were completely erased. We lost all of our Facebook pages, our Instagram presence, my personal account, my son who works for me, his personal account, the personal accounts of a couple of our overseas staff writers. They blocked all mentions to us. If you go in right now and put a LaCorte News link onto Facebook, you'll get something talking about community standards violations. Even people who went online in the Instagram and Facebook ways to communicate with one another in the messenger system, completely blocked. What's going on? Not only were we completely erased, we lost about 80% of the traffic coming to LaCorte News. We lost over 80% of our income. Screwed maybe, but we're fighting back. So why Facebook? Well, look, first a little background, because a lot of people say you should have known better, and why did you have a presence on Facebook? Let me give you just a 2-minute overview on that. So look, I ran Fox News for about a decade. I was a senior executive at Fox News for 18 years. I was very close to Roger Ailes. He got blown out on sexual harassment charges, and I was shown the door about 2-3 months later when the new regime came in. That's just how things work in corporate America. So even before I really knew what LaCorte News was going to be and what our editorial focus would look like, we started building up Facebook pages. So regular news doesn't really work on Facebook. You can't start as a startup and just report just kind of plain good, solid news. You get no following, you get no reach. They have systems that are designed in there. Their algorithm, what it does is it rewards people who are really into something. That could be sports. That could be something narrow casted. This day and age, what everybody's hyped up about is politics and political news. So we created a handful of pages, one of which was LaCorte News. Another was a conservative reporter. We had a couple conservative pages, a liberal page where we had some left-wing news on there, the news that they would like. We had a history page where we just posted popular images, and we had a science page. Those drove a lot of traffic to what we created. Facebook was and still is a good referral of traffic and a way to reach people. Look, when you're starting a news startup, you can't just put a site up and hope somebody comes. You try to get a Twitter presence. Twitter, you can get attention, but not a lot of clickbacks. You try to get so that Google sees what you're doing. We have a newsletter. We try to put that out to get people there, but you have to get subscribers. So Facebook was a real good option. We spent $250,000 and a whole lot of time and energy in building those pages, and we were pretty proud that we weren't crazy clickbait, that we were doing a solid journalistic background and solid journalistic stories. I actually hired my old boss from Fox News who ran the entire news division and kind of created it at Fox News. And we were proud of what we had, always knowing, though, that Mark Zuckerberg and the people who work for him could yank the rug out from underneath us at a whim. And that's what they've done. Censorship in America is rising every day. You have political candidates calling for it. You have these Silicon Valley guys that are getting out of control. We need to fight back. Stick around to this video to the end. I'm not going to ask you for money or anything like that, but I've got a very interesting project that we are rushing ahead of schedule, and I need your help to get that off the ground. So here's how this went down. Wednesday night, I'm rewatching a movie that I liked. It's a documentary called Hating Breitbart. He was a good friend of mine, and I miss him. He's been gone for a few years. He was the founder of Breitbart News. I get a text from one of my video editors that some things are going weird on Facebook. I go and take a look at it, and what they do is they give you all sorts of community warnings. We probably had 15 in the space of a second or 2 seconds. They don't tell you exactly what's wrong. They say that they've deleted posts. Most of them are grayed out with the icon. One wasn't. And they say you violated our terms and conditions. Some talked about harmful material. You're like, what the heck is going on? You have no idea. The next morning when I woke up, our pages were completely frozen. They still existed, but I couldn't touch them. So Ken LaCorte couldn't do anything to LaCorte News. Couldn't figure it out. We looked at one of the icons, and I was wearing a shirt in this studio of a video that I did. And you can see this video because I've been talking about this whistleblower, why the media is being so quiet on him, and then the growing censorship online from YouTube to Facebook to Wikipedia to basically all of the national news media. And I saw this and we were like, could they really be taking these things down and calling this a violation of community standards because we mentioned this whistleblower's name? Well, at first we kind of dismissed it as a little nutty, sent notices to Facebook. They never respond to anything, of course. Later in the day, we see other news sites are seeing the exact same thing. Actually, Breitbart.com reported it. Tim Pool had problems with this. The Gateway Pundit, David Harris. All these sites were getting almost identical things. So we said, okay, maybe so. Well, eventually Facebook came out and admitted it. They said any mention of the potential whistleblower's name violates our coordinating harm policy, which prohibits content, outing of witnesses, informants, or activists. Okay, I think that's a bad call, and I disagree with it, but they own the company. Facebook, they have the gold, they make the rules. So we complied. We self-censored our own posts. We took a couple posts that they hadn't noticed down, and we stopped mentioning the name of the whistleblower. Now, YouTube did the same thing, but they just took the videos down. They didn't wipe us from existence, as I'll get to in just one second. But first, let me take a little bit of a detour. Why is this important to America to talk about this whistleblower? I don't want to get into the whole too much back and forth. I talk about it in another video that I had done last week on YouTube, and we republished it as a censored version. But we have two kind of parties in America. You have the Democrats, you have basically most of the National Press Corps, who is saying if you say this person's name, you are endangering his life. You have, well, let me just address that right now. That's nonsense. The concept that somebody being angry at Donald Trump or somebody critical of Donald Trump is any more danger than the average person. I mean, Kathy Lee Griffin put a picture of his severed head that she was holding up dripping with blood. I mean, that's kind of sport. Anybody who's anti-Trump that big, this whistleblower is eventually going to have his own talk show and he's going to be on Oprah. He's going to be fine. The Republicans on another side say, wait a second, this is part of an ongoing deep state attack against the president. Before Donald Trump was elected, before he was sworn in, he was, and we now know this, he was under surveillance, both electronic and human, by the FBI and other three-letter organizations in the United States government. We didn't know about CIA, we didn't know this. Well, this leaker, shock of shocks, he wasn't a leaker who was sitting in the White House and heard something bad and had to come out as a whistleblower. He was actually sitting in Langley, Virginia, because he worked for the CIA and he then heard some things out there and put this together. Now, I'm not saying that excuses anything that the President of the United States does, but it certainly gives you a different picture of what's going on in this impeachment. Anyhow, back to this story. So as I said, as much as I hate censorship and think that this is a completely bullshit reason on this whole why the media is not reporting this person's name, it's Facebook sandbox and I complied. I did complain about censorship and I put up this image that you can see right now. And I'll read it aloud. Facebook and YouTube are banning all mentions of the word, and I scratch out his name beforehand, the alleged whistleblower who sparked impeachment. The press is ignoring. Big tech says they'll ban us if we mention it, and you can help fight back. Spread the word. His name is, and I won't say the name here, but you know what it is. 15 minutes later, Facebook completely wiped us off the face of the earth. First, they sent looked like an auto-generated list of emails for every of the about 10 pages that we were running. Those pages didn't specify exactly why we were taken down, but they did talk about pages that they called threatening or obscene and harmful. But again, they kind of were squishy in their description of things. And what they always do is they say, oh, here's a link to our terms and conditions. And then you can go look at the 40-page of terms and conditions and try to figure out what you did wrong, how to remedy it. We'd already asked them how to remedy it. We'd asked them earlier, can we say this guy's name? Can we not? What should we do? How do we get back on? Never hear boo from them. They never responded to us. Breitbart.com actually did a story on that. I'll link to the bottom of that. I'll also link to our just kind of back and forth longer description of what we got going here. And Facebook finally gave a statement to Breitbart. Again, never talked to us. Quote, we routinely take action when we find violations of our community standards, including financially motivated activities like spreading clickbait content. In this case, we removed a number of these pages and accounts for violating our policies, including against spam and misrepresentation. So my first response is, I'm not exactly sure what they're accusing me of here. We have some financial motivations. I got bills to pay, but we didn't have clickbait, anything beyond what NBC would have. I mean, we really were calmer than 90% of the stories that you see on Facebook and on Instagram, but I don't know what they mean by that. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by spam, since we never did anything like that. And misrepresentation, I mean, they were big on having us say, here's who we are, here's our phone number. I had to hold up my ID and have them take pictures of my face. I mean, they do a lot of things like that, and we complied with everything. That said, I can't prove any of this because they erased every single digital piece of images or words that we ever put up. I'd love them to put it back up and say, oh, this is spam or this is misrepresentation, because it's just not true. Let me be real clear. This certainly isn't about me. I mean, right now for me, it's about me. I mean, it kind of sucks to have Facebook chop the legs out of your startup company and wonder if you can keep paying the bills for much longer, which I'm doing exactly that right now. But this is about changing the political debate in America. This is about narrowing the window of what you're allowed to talk about online in these sites that are where everybody talks about politics. We used to talk about the social square. You go to the town square and chat with your friends. Well, now that happens on Facebook, and you literally can't have certain conversations. I mean, we all saw when they took Alex Jones out. Now, Alex Jones is, he's one of these guys that says interesting things. He says crazy things. He screams a lot. He is what he is. Facebook not only said that they wiped him out, you can't post a picture of you and Alex Jones at a party and ID that without having that taken down. In fact, their senior VP was over, I think he was over in England. He said that you can talk about Alex Jones on Facebook if you say negative things. So we've literally got somebody who is a powder keg, and you're only allowed to say certain things about him. But he was one of the first ones to go. They take off Nazis, they take off bad people, and that window keeps getting narrower. Then they're taking out Milo Yiannopoulos. Well, okay, he was certainly a political figure. He'd be jokey and fun, but now they've taken him out and deplatformed him. A young gal who lives right up around here named Soph. She would go out. She had a couple sentences where she was clearly joking about violence. They zapped her off of YouTube with 1 million viewers. This is a scary part that's going on in America, and we need to be aware of this, and we need to figure out ways to get around it. We have a national press corps that basically thinks in unison about politics, a couple Fox Newses and others notwithstanding. And now we have the Silicon Valley platforms that are really our town square in America that go in lockstep with that and actually ban you and me and others from thinking outside of that box and saying or thinking things that are outside of that narrative. That's a serious problem. Here's what you can do to help us out and fight back at the same time. Look, we've seen this crackdown of speech coming for a number of months out here, and we at LaCorte News decided to launch our own free speech zone. It's been under development with the tech guys for about 8 months. We were planning on another month before we rolled it out properly, but we threw it online right away. Okay, what is it? It's basically a place where if it's legal to say in America, you can say it there. We're not going to take it down because it offends somebody or anything like that. Obviously, you can't threaten to kill people, but besides that, we're keeping it open. Now, a lot of places like that, there's some others online, but they kind of turn into these crazy cesspools. Our twist on this is we have a green, yellow, red notion that when you put up a post, you mark one of those levels of intensity. What's that mean? Okay, green means something that you can say in front of your mom without anybody blushing. Yellow means something you can kind of loudly say in a bar, hey, go, blah, 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 and kind of silly and some swear words. Red means say whatever the fuck you want. And again, as long as it's not illegal, it's staying up. As I said, we put it up a little quicker than we expected. It's a little wonky here, but it's getting there. We're totally looking for beta testers to join us on this. Please, if you're interested in this at all, send me, I'll read it personally, something to beta@lacortenews.com. We'll get back in touch with you and let you know what we got going on. Look, backing down is not an option for us. It shouldn't be an option for you, and I know it's not an option for me personally. Before a lot of you were born in the early 90s, I single-handedly released the names of every single high-risk sex offender in California. I got a lot of flack for that. I got threatened with jail. I am not going to let a bunch of weenies from Silicon Valley destroy free speech in this country, and they're certainly not going to cower me. They certainly shouldn't cower you. This is a fight for free speech, and we're going to win. Thanks.